pocket and handing over a clean white cloth. "Thanks," Edgar said, wiping his brow. "That lady had me dressed so fast. I left mine behind." "Mr. Witherspoon," Sinclair began, his voice filled with sincere emotion. "I do not know how to begin to apologize. Nothing in my training had prepared me for a case like yours." "Well, nice meeting you," Edgar said, turning to walk away. "Where are you going?" Sinclair asked, reaching out to stop him. "Away, finally, after 11 years," Edgar replied with a peaceful smile. "But what about the machine?" Sinclair asked, his voice rising in panic. "The voice spoke to me while I was in your hospital," Edgar explained. "It said, 'Edgar, have you ever been to Miami?' I said no, but I used to think it would be a nice place to retire." "Go for it," the voice said. "You are off duty?" Sinclair whispered, unable to believe what he was hearing. "You mean all this is not necessary anymore?" "Sure it is," Edgar corrected. "It is absolutely essential. The world still has to be kept in balance." "So who's going to?" Sinclair began, the terrifying truth slowly dawning on him. "And look," Edgar pointed back toward the basement window, "it needs adjusting already. That is it. Now, if I can just get a ping-pong ball in there by 7:13, well, I guess we solved that little problem." He patted the doctor on the shoulder, his eyes filled with a warm, passing affection. "I would get cracking if I was you," Edgar advised. "Impossible," Sinclair whispered, staring at his hands. "I refuse." "Jeremy, really, you will grow to like it," Edgar said, his voice fading as he began to walk away down the street. "Give it a chance. So long. Don't take any wooden nickels. Unless you really need them, of course." "Mr. Witherspoon," Sinclair called out, but the old man was already disappearing into the crowd, a free spirit embarking on a well-deserved retirement. Sinclair stood on the sidewalk for a long moment, the sounds of the city swirling around him. He looked down at his hands, then back toward the basement window of the apartment building. The weight of the entire world seemed to settle onto his shoulders. "No," he muttered to himself, turning and walking quickly back toward the entrance. "A tambourine," Sinclair said to himself, his voice carrying a new, frantic urgency as he stepped back into the basement. "I have to find a tambourine right away." He looked around the cluttered room, his eyes scanning the shelves with a mixture of dread and determination. "Can you help me?" he whispered to the empty room. "Do you know where I can find a tambourine? If in the next few months you notice that there has been a spate of catastrophes, or things are just not going right, remember that Edgar Witherspoon's replacement is learning how to make some precise adjustments. Don't worry, his education will not last long, and then you will have a chance to make a difference. Perhaps you might give thanks to a physician whose practice extends to the well-being of the entire planet." Dr. Jeremy Sinclair offers a unique form of preventative medicine, found only in the Twilight Zone. The clinical sanctuary of Dr. Jeremy Sinclair was a masterpiece of professional serenity. Leaning back in his chair. "Well?" she asked eagerly. I could not exactly call it a long conversation," the doctor admitted, choosing his words carefully. "But long enough to realize that he is." "Absolutely," Cynthia interrupted. "On the other hand, Mr. Witherspoon appears happy and, like, harmless." "Harmless?" Cynthia scoffed, her voice rising in frustration. "He pesters strangers on the street. He runs after garbage trucks. That is far from harmless. Somebody saw him take a baby's bottle out of its carriage. I am afraid he will get arrested next time. Doctor, I will sign anything. Cooperate in any way I—" "All right," Sinclair interrupted gently, trying to calm her. "Maybe I will have another chat with him. A longer one. See if did you hear that?" "What?" Cynthia asked, looking around the quiet room. There was something about Sinclair paused, shaking his head as if to clear a sudden, strange fog from his mind. "Sorry, it was nothing. I do not know what I was thinking. I will call you as soon as I can." "Thank you very much," Cynthia said, rising from her chair and leaving the office. As the door closed, the small radio on the doctor's desk hummed to life, the voice of the news announcer filtering through the quiet room. Activity could be a problem. Acid rain is affecting the northern lakes even more than scientists previously estimated. Dr. Sinclair shook his head, unable to shake a growing sense of unease. He knew he had to return to that apartment. There was something about Edgar Witherspoon that defied the neat, orderly categories of his psychiatric textbooks. A week later, Sinclair stood once again outside Edgar's door. He knocked firmly, his professional resolve hardened. "Mr. Witherspoon, go away," a muffled voice called out from inside. "I am not home." "It is Dr. Sinclair," the physician called back. "I was here last week. You remember?" "Sorry, I was not home last week either," Edgar shouted through the wood. "Mr. Witherspoon, I could legally force you to open this door to me," Sinclair warned, his voice carrying the weight of authority. "Is that what you want?" The lock turned with a heavy click, and the door swung open. Edgar stood there, looking at the doctor with a mixture of amusement and exasperation. "You are a curious one," the old man observed. "Odd, you mean?" Sinclair asked, stepping inside. "I mean nosy," Edgar corrected. "I am paid to be nosy," the doctor replied with a small smile. "Curious, I mean, really? Don't you think that's odd?" Edgar mused, closing the door behind them. "Most people are curious for nothing. That is very nice for you. Are the hours good?" "Mr. Witherspoon," Sinclair began, taking a seat on a sturdy wooden chair that was surprisingly free of clutter. "Why do you collect dolls' heads, shoes, paperclips?" "I cannot afford Rembrandts," Edgar replied simply, as if it were the most obvious answer in the world. "What?" Sinclair asked, momentarily thrown off balance. "Oh no," Edgar muttered, his attention suddenly drawn to a small, vibrating wire near the window. "Oh no. As usual, it has been lovely. Please do not call again." "I may have to," Sinclair said, standing up and looking around the extraordinary room. "The next time it might not be so lovely, you understand what I mean, Mr. Witherspoon. Wouldn't you rather invite me in of your own free will?" Edgar looked at the doctor, his eyes softening with a sudden, deep seriousness. "You must," he whispered. "You must. Be very, very careful where you walk." "How is it, Cloushade?" Edgar asked, looking up at a complex arrangement of strings and tin cans that hung like a mechanical jungle from the ceiling. "It is very interesting, Mr. Witherspoon," Sinclair said, stepping carefully around a pile of old books. What is it?" "This?" Edgar asked, gesturing proudly to the sprawling, delicate contraption that filled almost every inch of the apartment. "Yes. This is the only thing that keeps the world from going poof." "Now, let me understand you clearly, Mr. Witherspoon," Sinclair said, adopting his most patient, clinical tone. "You say that this is what keeps the world from going poof." "And it is not easy," Edgar replied, his face lined with the weight of an immense responsibility. "Most things are nearly impossible to find. Where would you look for a skate key?" "Oh, I cannot imagine," the doctor admitted. "I found one, though," Edgar said triumphantly. "You think that is crazy?" "Well, you wouldn't by any chance have a business card, would you?" "Oh, yes, of course," Sinclair said, reaching into his pocket and handing over a small piece of white cardboard. "That was an easy one," Edgar said, carefully slotting the card into a tiny crevice between two wooden blocks. "Well, I won't take up any more of your time. I have seen more than enough." The old man sat down on a small stool, his expression growing reflective, almost melancholic. "I used to be an engineer," he said softly. "Earned lots of money. Then I retired. Worst mistake I ever made. Life was so damned boring. And then the voice spoke to me." "Oh, you also hear voices," Sinclair noted, his clinical instincts immediately sharpening. "You too?" Edgar asked, looking up with genuine delight. "Please tell me about it." Sinclair realized he had misspoken. "No," he corrected quickly. "I meant, tell me about your voice." Edgar leaned forward, his voice dropping to a confidential whisper. "I was sitting in the park one day, feeding the pigeons, and suddenly, there it was. The voice." "Edgar," it said, "have you ever been to England?" "Oh yes, why?" "No, that is what the voice asked me." "Edgar," it said, "in the heart of Big Ben,